Welcome to Jacked Up Politics on today, the 11th of June 2024, your one-stop for all your political related news and current affairs related news, giving you the unbiased take on what is going on in Europe and internationally. So we start today's episode with Belgian Prime Minister resigns after crushing defeat by right in general election. Alexander De Croo notified King Philippe on Monday morning, but will lead until a new coalition is formed. The Belgian Prime Minister has formally tendered his resignation following a visit to the King after his Flemish Liberals and Democrats party, Open VLD, suffered heavy defeats in Sunday's general election. Alexander De Croo will remain caretaker Prime Minister until a new coalition involving 7 parties is formed, a process that could take months. In line with protocol, he handed his resignation to Belgium's King Philippe on Monday morning at the Royal Palace in Brussels. A new government is likely to coalesce around the right-wing New Flemish Alliance, the NVA, which itself beat its arch-rival, the far-right Vlaams Belang, into second place, and the Dutch-speaking Flanders, or second place in the key Dutch-speaking region into the second place in the key Dutch-speaking Flanders region, where it had been predicted to top the polls. Prime Minister De Croo had this to say: "For us, it is a particularly difficult evening. We lost. As of tomorrow, I will resign as Prime Minister," a visibly emotional De Croo told supporters on Sunday. Under the rules, a lead negotiator must be picked by the King to kick off the negotiations, and De Wever is likely to be chosen by the end of the week, according to local media. This is it is a bit of a shock for Belgium, but a lot of people saw this coming because, there had been growing dissatisfaction in Belgium in terms of the Belgian government's weak progress in terms of economic issues and immigration-related concerns. And I think a turn back to the right was expected, and I think kind of that the situation in Belgium had been on a knife edge for a while. So the fact that Prime Minister De Croo lost at the elections is a kind of telling sign of that, and I think we kind of need to take that into consideration as well. Folks, we are living in a very polarizing political time, and we do live in a very fluid political environment, unfortunately, and it's going to be a very interesting time ahead. So that piece was by The Guardian, and we are now going to talk a little bit about what is going on in France. So the BBC is leading this morning with Macron's snap election leaves rivals stunned after EU vote. And this from the BBC. France's political leaders are scrambling to prepare for a snap election after President Emmanuel Macron dissolved the parliament in response to a stinging European vote defeat by the far-right National Rally Party. Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire has warned the 2-round vote, starting on June 30th, could have the most serious consequences in modern French history. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democrats were also heavily beaten in Sunday's European elections by the Conservative opposition, but he has ruled out holding early elections. The Conservative CSU Premier of Bavaria, Markus Söder, said Mr. Scholz's government was essentially finished and needed to follow the French example. Germany isn't scheduled to hold fresh elections until 2025, but Mr. Söder said the country needs a new start. Macron's ally, Yael Braun-Pivet, who is the president of the National Assembly, said there had been an alternative to new elections which involved a government pact, but the president decided that path wasn't open to him without the majority in Parliament. The government relies on support from other parties to pass legislation. There was also frustration with the Socialist Mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, that the vote was taking place 3 weeks before the capital hosts the Olympics. Mr. Macron's Renew Party polled less than 15% of the vote on Sunday, while the anti-immigration National Rally of Marine Le Pen and young leader Jordan Bardella secured more than 31%, nearly a third. So if we talk a bit about the European Parliament and what it means, is The 720-member Assembly is the only EU institution elected directly by voters across the 27 EU member states. It directly shapes the direction of EU laws and affects the lives of EU citizens, and also endorses the bloc's annual budget. The European Parliament also supervises the work of the European Commission, the EU's de facto government, and other EU bodies. The European Parliament election results in theory have no bearing on national politics, but voters often use the occasion to send their message to their national government. The decision to hold new elections came as a shock across the political spectrum, with reports of a hastily organised meeting involving Renew leaders and Marie Shale from the rival far-right party, Recon Kite. Sorry, folks, if I pronounce that, but I didn't study French, so my apologies if I didn't get it right. There were also calls for France's bitterly divided left to rally around socialist Raphael Glucksmann, who scored 14%, or scored almost 14% of the European vote. President Macron joined German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier on Monday in the French village of Orders-sur-Glane to mark the 80th anniversary of the infamous Nazi massacre in World War II, when SS troops murdered 643 villagers in June 1944. President Steinmeier said it was fitting on the day after the European elections that the Europeans never forgot the damage done by nationalism and hate. Let us not forget the miracle of reconciliation that the European has worked. The AfD party, which is a German party, came second in Germany's European vote on Sunday, ahead of all three parties in Mr. Schulz's coalition government, despite a succession of scandals involving the AfD's two top candidates. Its newly elected MEPs voted to exclude top candidate Maximilian Krah from their delegation in the European Parliament after it was alleged he had links to Russia and China. Meanwhile, President Macron is due to meet with both Olaf Scholz and Italy's Giorgia Meloni at a G7 summit this week in the Italian region of Puglia. The leaders are not likely to discuss the outcome of Sunday's European vote, but also whether to support Ursula von der Leyen's bid to win a second term as President of the European Commission. The Italian leader told Italian radio on Monday it was too early to talk about a second mandate for the current Commission chief. Ms von der Leyen's centre-right European People's Party has emerged by far as the biggest grouping in the next European Parliament. So, as we can see, the politics in Europe at the moment is quite fluid. It's showing that there's been big swing back towards the right, because there is a growing dissatisfaction with economic issues and immigration issues, And I think if we're to look at this subjectively, and if we're to look at this from a pragmatic point of view, there needs to be an evidence-based approach taken by all major European shareholders on the issues of immigration, immigration and economic issues, which are the two biggest issues facing Europe at the moment. We know inflation is running extremely high at the moment, and we also know that immigration is a major concern of a lot of European countries, and it was also a big cause of the rise of the far right in Ireland recently. So much so that we've actually seen about 8 candidates elected, or 8 far right candidates elected. And I think that just goes to show that there is a growing dissatisfaction with the European Union's lack of tough immigration policy, And I think people do have a right to be angry because, realistically, there has been not a lot done to quell the mass immigration into Europe. Now, this isn't me being far right, this is me coming from a pragmatic and centrist and apolitical point of view. I think we need to be doing more to understand the causes of why these people are coming into Europe. Because, you see, the reason why quite a lot of economic migrants are coming into Europe is their countries are not able to support them. They're not able to support their families in their home countries, so they're looking for better lives elsewhere. And I think we can't really turn our backs on them because, in Ireland, definitely we can't be turning our backs because, a lot of our young people in Ireland, a lot of my friends included, have gone to the likes of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, America, to go work because basically it's too expensive to live here. And I think the government is a tad out of touch by not listening to the concerns of the public. We do need more affordable housing. We do need more affordable accommodation. We do need a better healthcare system, and we do need stronger immigration laws. Now, I'm not saying I'm against immigration. I do not want it to come across like that. I am completely not against immigration, but what I am against is a lack of government response and a lack of government legislation. The government needs stronger legislation. There's already a framework in place for if they have migrants that are coming in from a designated safe country, they can send them back. I was talking to someone the other day, and I think in May, right, the government only sent back, I think there was, now I'm going to be corrected on the figures on this, but this is where it's fact-based now, folks, and this is what I pride myself on. I think there was about 300 immigrants from safe countries came into Ireland, right? And I think we only actually sent 27 back, and I think that's not good enough. If there are 300 of them coming from a safe country in Europe, they need to be going back to that said safe country, because why do they take, this isn't being racist or anything like that. If they're already in a safe country, we, the Republic of Ireland, are under no obligation to take them in, but I think it's a case of the lack of infrastructure is a big thing, that, and the lack of available guards to actually enforce this legislation is absolutely criminal. And the government are a bit tone deaf by stopping people that are coming across the border from Northern Ireland into Ireland, and they're putting them back on a bus and sending them back across the border. What's not to stop them coming back down on the bus in, say, an hour or 2 hours time, And I think we need to have stronger rules and regulations around immigration, that if they're coming from a safe country, I do think we do need to be saying to them, I'm very, very sorry, but you're already in, say, France or Italy or Spain or wherever you were was a safe country, you're not coming in here, end of story. And I think we need to be fair, we need to be equitable, and we need to be, I think it needs to be done more effectively. Also, we saw in the Netherlands that Geert Wilders' party, NVV, right, got its arse handed to it over the weekend as well. Now I know I don't normally swear on this, but they did. That Wilders had gone into that European election vote on Sunday thinking that he'd pick up more seats. He didn't. What actually happened was that a lot of the Dutch public had actually voted in favour of left-wing candidates or their European candidates, which I think is good. Now, I do think we do need to swing more kind of centrist, maybe centre-left, in terms of politics across the globe. And I think we need to focus more on sustainability. I think we need to focus more on economic issues. I think we need to take a common sense approach to the financial issues that are facing Europe at the moment, because, we have the technology there, folks, and I know I'm going to sound like a bit of a fucking a green nut for saying this, but fuck it anyway, that we do have the technology there to go green by 2030 in terms of our energy production, we have nuclear technology that's available, but the only problem with nuclear technology is it is cost prohibitive. It is extremely expensive. It is extremely time consuming, because the only problem with nuclear power is the waste, that it's toxic for 10,000 years. Now, I know you can reprocess that waste and use it as fuel again, and that then reduces the amount of nuclear waste you have to store. And I think we need to focus on, if Europe truly wants to be carbon neutral by 2050, I think what we need to do is we need to take a good hard look at the ways in which we're generating electricity and the ways we're generating power, and I think it's that's another thing we need to. And I think we also need to be not taxing Johnny Blogs and Jane Blogs for your national governments failing to act to meet their emissions targets. Why should the public suffer because the government has been lazy and not been pulling their finger? I think putting the tax back onto the common man, I think that just doesn't work anymore. I think governments need to take responsibility and hold their hands up and say, we messed up, we missed our emission targets, but we're going to triple our efforts this year to make sure we meet those targets, you know? Because I know the Republic, I know Ireland is absolutely notorious for this. We are setting an emission target, and by 3 months into the year, we've already blown it, you know? So I think there needs to be more done, and I think fining countries for missing their emission targets just doesn't work, because it's not the Irish government that are paying for it, it's the Irish public that are paying for it, you know? So, like, I think, and a bit of common sense is needed and I think a bit of a fact-based approach is needed to deal with this. But let's get back on track. Also, we've seen Sean Kelly was elected in Ireland South. He topped the poll and is the first elected MEP for Ireland South. Sean Kelly was the Fine Gael candidate for Ireland South, one of the Fine Gael candidates for Ireland South, having received over 120,000 votes in the first count, and was deemed elected, and his surplus was then transferred to the other candidates. Election counts are still ongoing with the European election counts are still ongoing in Neptune Stadium in Cork, and in Dublin, and in the Midlands Northwest. So we're hoping to have a bit more information about that later on today. Now, let's take another look at a developing story, is the Irish local elections. Now, I know I said this was going to be a more European-centric episode, but I would be remiss if I didn't give you a bit of an update on the local elections. So, going into the elections, we had 949 county and city council seats going up for grabs. Going into the election, you had Fianna Fáil were on 279, Fine Gael were on 255, Sinn Féin were on 81, Labour were on 57, the Greens were on 49, and the Social Democrats were on 19, and the People Before Profit were on 11. So, as of this morning, we are going to take a little look at that, and as of this morning, we will give you a bit of an update on these numbers. Just give me 1 second. And so, as of this morning, the Fine Gael were on 242 with 937 seats. So Fine Gael were on 242 with 937 out of 949 seats declared. Fianna Fáil were on 244, Sinn Féin were on 100, the Green Party were on 23, Labour were on 56, the Social Democrats were on 35, People Before Profit and Solidarity were on 13, Aintree were on 8, Independents were on 183, and other parties were on 33. So we're going to take a little we're going to have a little talk about this now, and we're going to go through it with you. So, coming into the election, the Fianna Fáil, right, had in the 2019 result got 279 seats. When they were going into election day, they had 276 seats, so a loss of 3. As of this morning, they are on 244 seats, so they have lost roughly 32 seats. You know, and that just goes to show you they are actually down in the polls. Fine Gael went into the election with 254, having gotten 255 in 2019. As of this morning, they are on 242, which means they are down roughly 12 seats on the last election. Sinn Féin were on 81. They've actually, even though support for Sinn Féin was actually down, Sinn Féin have actually managed to gain seats. They have gained 19 seats, bringing their total up to 100. Labour got 57 seats in the 2019 local election and had 55 seats coming into this election. Labour are actually down a seat on this time from 2019. They're actually down 1 seat, but look, there's still 12 seats to be filled. So, you know, that could bring them back up. The Green Party had 49 seats going into the had 49 seats in 2019, and going into the elections on Friday, they had 45 seats. Unfortunately, the Green Party have lost 23 seats. 22 seats, my apologies. They are down to 23 seats as of this morning, which shows they have taken an absolute hammering. Social Democrats then, when they came into the local elections, they had 19, and on the seats on election day were 22, so they were already up 3. They are now up to 35, meaning they have actually doubled their amount of seats that they held, or nearly doubled the amount of seats. They've actually grown by over half, So in terms of percentage points, the Social Democrats have actually grown the most, they've grown by about 50%. So, that is absolutely huge, that's an absolutely massive increase. Independent Ireland, coming into election day, had 13 seats. There's no information available for them just yet. So, we will bring that to you in as soon as we have it. People Before Profit and Solidarity went into the election with 10 seats, having lost one from their 2019 holding of 11 seats, and Aontú have picked up 5 seats from their 3 seats in 2019. People Before Profit have managed to pick up 3 seats in the local elections, so they've done quite well. Independents for Change have done quite well as well. They've managed to retain their seats. Right to Change are up 2, so they're doing pretty well. Riorta, I believe Lorna Bogue has retained her seat. And we will just have a little look here now. So in terms of so we have the list of parties here who've gained seats. So the Fianna Fáil were on 244, Fine Gael 242, Sinn Féin 100, Labour 56, Social Democrats 35. So they ran 77 candidates, they got 35 in. So basically the Social Democrats actually had the best election record of any party, because they were literally able to get 1 and 2 candidates in pretty much, So I think that's a fantastic start for the Social Democrats. The Green Party ran 129 candidates and they only got 23 in. So that meant for every 6 candidates they ran, they only got 1 in. Independent Ireland ran 61 candidates and they got 23 in, so that's a very good result for them. People Before Profit ran 45 candidates and got 10 of their candidates in. Aontú ran 66 and got 8 in, up 5 from 2019. The Wexford Independent Alliance, Verona Murphy's party, ran 12 candidates and got 5 in, so they're just as good as, their results are nearly as good as Social Democrats, getting 1 and 2 candidates in, so that's a pretty good result. The 100% Redress party in Donegal ran 6 candidates and got 4 in, meaning they got 66% of their overall candidates in, which is fantastic for them. Solidarity ran 8 candidates and got 3 in. Independents for Change ran 2 candidates and got 2 in, so and if we look at it in terms of percentage gain, they haven't actually gained any seats, they just managed to retain the seats they had already. The National Party ran 15 candidates and got 1 in. The Freedom Party Irish Freedom ran 28 candidates and got 1 in. And the Right to Change Party ran 2 candidates and got 1 in. The Workers' Party ran 3 candidates and got 1 in. The Workers' and Unemployed Party ran 2, got 1 in. Kerry Independents ran 1 and got 1 in. So, they had a 100% success rate. Independent Left, exactly the same. Republican Sinn Féin, exactly the same. The Farmers Alliance ran 2 candidates and got no one in, so they actually failed to get any candidates in. Glór, who are based in Cove, ran 1 candidate and didn't get any. Ireland First ran 8 candidates and got none in. The Irish People ran 57 candidates and got none in. The People for Animal Welfare ran 5 candidates and got none in. And the People for Animal... and Riorta. Okay, so I need to issue a correction on that. I thought Lorna Bogue had retained her seat. Unfortunately, she hasn't. Riorta have lost their seat because they had 1 seat before. It is a very interesting... there are some very interesting statistics going in to the local elections. While Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have picked up, have gotten the majority of seats in the local elections this year, it is not immediately apparent how well they're going to do. If you look at it from a strictly numbers perspective wise, they're actually, in terms of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, they are actually down. They're actually down they're down 4%, and Fianna Fáil are down 4% and Fine Gael are down 2%. So, it just goes to show they have actually had their worst local election record in recent history, Now, even though they've gained candidates, their percentage marker is actually down, so that just because they've gotten more seats, bums on seats, doesn't necessarily equate to having a stronger presence. Now, I know there's only about 12 seats remaining, but it's very difficult to estimate where they're going to go. So this has been this morning's episode of Jacked Up Politics, the European and local elections update episode. So we'll be back a little later on today with our interview with Sean O'Farrell, the Ceann Comhairle of Dáil Éireann. So folks, this is Jack signing off for the first episode. I'll catch you on the next episode. Have a good one. Bye bye. We get gas black, make me wanna lose my mind. Found solitude, knowing it'll be over soon. Ever need a boost, count on me for the 1-2. Trouble don't last.